Hey guys, what's up? It's about 3:48 p.m. or 3:49 p.m. on this Sunday, June 13th, 2025. And I do apologize if you hear any boom boom sounds. Those are going to be like text messages, Instagram messages, notifications, Facebook notifications, Twitter notifications, Facebook Messenger, you name it. And I do apologize if you hear a big boom. That's going to be like my bank letting me know something got declined, which hopefully I won't have to worry about after tomorrow. But anyway, to get on topic here, because I know it's a topic when you read the title, you're like, again. Well, hey, when you do 18K, basically over 18K of videos, 18,000 videos, on your YouTube channel, which has attracted over 15,000 people to subscribe, which I do appreciate. Let's get that number up to 30,000 before the summer's out, if not to 50,000 before the year's out. When it gets you to that point, you're bound to have people that are new to your channel that may not know about certain things unless they go through all 18,000 videos or 18,000 plus videos just to see what you're talking about. So that's why I like to once in a while download a video from my channel, on my main channel, which I can edit and all that. My main, basically that's what we can all do if we have our YouTube channels. I will basically download it and I will convert it to 4K or 8K or even 1080p, so that way it's more fit for the more modern format or something to that extent. But anyway, to get on to the topic here, for those of you that are new to this, I've talked about this, I guess as some people would look at it ad nauseum. I've talked about it so many times, it just, I think people just, get a little tired of it. But honestly, not only do I think they get tired of it, but I also think they wonder, okay, what is he going to add to it this time? And I don't add much that's new to what I'm going to basically update a lot of people on. You see, depending on how you look at the anniversary of Peter Gabriel's Sledgehammer, depending on how you look at it, the anniversary year, all I can say is within the next year or so, starting next month, it's going to be very significant, very, very significant. Because if you look at it from, 85 to 86, like let's say WrestleMania is looked at or the Super Bowl is looked at, then you could consider this year and next month, this time frame, if you will, as the 40th anniversary, of the Sledgehammer music video. But if not, you could look at the next year, if you will, the next year or so, starting next month as a build of that 40th anniversary. Which would be like 86 to 2026, or again, you could look at it like from a Super Bowl WrestleMania perspective, in that situation. Kind of like a lot of people are looking at the birth of the birth of our country, its birthday, celebrating 250 years next year, but the celebration's kicking off this year. So, be it as you may. But anyway, I wanted to come on here and talk about my history, with this video, because as I've told people before, and this is for especially those that are new to the channel, as I've told people before, I was about 7 years old. I was 6 going on 7. And basically, I was brought into the living room when we lived in Hayward, California, in the apartments on Harder Road. I know it was called Harder Road. Some people tell me otherwise. But anyway, I remember going into the living room when we lived in the apartments at that time frame. And I remember I was being told by my parents, to check this video out. And I'd been told this before when it came to the Touch music video by Stan Bush with Transformers the movie. This video was not connected to any movie. It was part of an album that had come out around that time frame, if not a little earlier. The album being So. Yeah, that was the title of the album, So. So I watched it, and it just mesmerized me because, being a kid, I wasn't really that much into music videos. Music I was. I became a Michael Jackson fan because of my grandfather playing the albums and everything. And then outside of the Touch music video that I talked about by Stan Bush and all that, the Michael Jackson ones were the only ones I would ever, pay attention to and watch, where everything else was like, yeah, my siblings can watch that. They're more into it than I am. But anyway, long story short, I remember being called into the living room and seeing it and being told about this and watching it. And again, like I said, it just mesmerized me because even though I didn't know the true meaning behind the song and its lyrics at the time, which I think a lot of us do by now, it was one of those videos that just, was very whimsical and colorful in nature, that it was the kind that, as the old saying goes, you could, utilize, or you could use as a set of keys to jingle in front of a kid's face, and that'll get their attention. That'll get their attention for a while. And that's what this video did to me. It got my attention. And what's crazy is when you look at a lot of the reaction videos that are out there, here on the YT and in places like Rumble and so on, when you look at all those reaction videos over the past years, and if not in the past few months, the genuine and natural reaction that these folks get, from watching this, you can feel and believe that it's natural, that it's real, that it's uncut, that it's unfiltered. Because basically, for some of them, they've never seen this video because it came out before they were born, or it came out the year they were born. And they never really watched it that much. Even if they did, they probably didn't understand exactly what the true meaning was behind the words and the lyrics, or never really gave much thought of how much hard work and how many hours went into making this video happen. Because as noted in some behind-the-scenes documentaries, as well as books and all that, interviews, this thing took about 16 hours. Well, at least for Peter Gabriel, it took about 16 hours for him to lay underneath a plane of glass, to have certain stop-motion scenes like the fruit face deal and all that occur. Well, everything else took a while to, perfect and make a reality because of the use of claymation, pixelization, you name it, stop-motion, you name it. So, it really just surprises a lot of folks, especially those that were born afterwards or even born that year it came out, of all the, technicalness that went into this, all the hard work and technicalness that went into the video, to make it a reality in the long run. It really was, it's really, even for someone like me that was, like I said, going on 7 years old from 6 years old, it really amazes me now. I'm, someone that's going to be, 46, next week, a week from this Friday. It really amazes me though how in depth, if you will, how how thorough, how hard, how much time it took for these people to make this video a reality. It still amazes me even when I watch it. It really does, because you look at today's technology, especially with AI, and you can definitely tell that the AI, and I've shown this as well with various examples with my AI creations through, VO3 and VO3 and VO2, I should say. HailuO, that's HAILUO, VDU, Pixverse, Kling, you name it. I've shown that, basically AI could take something, especially even a screenshot, if you will, of, like from this video, and they can make it into what you want. Like you could go to ChatGPT. You can go to ChatGPT and say, hey, take the claymation scene of Peter Gabriel where his hands have turned into sledgehammers and he's hitting his face. Make that into a female version and you'll get it. And then you could just download that and then go to like one of those video AI sites that I mentioned, and basically make it become a reality. Kind of ask it through a prompt, hey, make this, do this, and it will do it, more than likely. Some still, have a lot to learn, but more than likely you'll get what you want, end of story. End of story. But, but it's amazing to know, even, going on 46, like I said, next week, it's amazing to know that, it's amazing to know that all that hard work, just for one 5-minute plus video, all that hard work they put into it is just, it's just mind blowing to see how many hours they had to put in, all the all the practical and practical effects and aesthetics they had to do. It's just amazing to know, because nowadays with AI and CGI, this kind of video could be done almost just like that. I mean, heck, recently, about 2 years ago, Peter Gabriel took part in this contest for Stable Diffusion, and they had people enter, their own takes on different songs that he did, by making music videos using AI. And one person that I talked about in the previous video recently, about a couple months ago, uploaded a video which they re-uploaded as of 2 weeks ago on their YouTube channel of "It's Your Universe, I Just Live in It." Basically it's their take on Sledgehammer, and even though it may not be the best take, it is probably the closest you're going to get. It is the closest you're going to get to something of a female artist, making it happen. It's the closest you're going to get. And you can't tell me that there aren't female artists over the past 20, 40 years that were inspired by this video to want to make their own version, because there were. Because there were. You look at Bojack, Borak, if you will. You take a look at F.K. Twigs, St. Vincent, even very notable ones like Lady Gaga, Katy Perry. You could tell a lot of them take inspiration from someone like Peter Gabriel and his Sledgehammer video to want to create their own version of it in their own way, or at least take elements from the video and say, like, okay, what can we use from there that we can apply here? And you could see it. You could just see it through some of the visuals and everything. But for me and anybody else that grew up in the 80s and all that, and even the 90s, but mostly the 80s, that saw this video from its, from its inception, it's something that will stick with you for the longest time. It'll make you a fan of this person, even if you don't listen to all the songs. It'll make you a fan of them, because it's going to make you wonder, okay, what are they going to do next? What are they going to do to top what they did here? And he, over the past, the next decade, would do what he could to top it. The following year, he did Big Time, and people felt like that, served as a kind of a quasi-sequel to Sledgehammer, just based on the similarities. Like, there's one scene where it's a claymation version of him that gets, his face gets squashed by these two big bellies, and he's saying something something with the big boys and all that, and then all of a sudden, like I said, these two bellies just squish his face, and then out of the two people's hands come a bunch of junk, and it just covers his face, and he's like, so much stuff I will own. And it's like, that's very similar to Sledgehammer, with that scene. Or the ending where basically he's in this like mirror that gets, destroyed. And all of a sudden, out of the wrecked pieces is a flower version of him saying, "Hi there," so so you could tell it kind of sounded like a quasi-sequel. It did. And then people say Steam, which came out years later, will try to serve as another quasi-sequel. In a way, it did. Digging in the Dirt was very similar as well. It's like that foursome basically started with Sledgehammer, and he's trying to capitalize on it. He's trying to improve on it. He's trying to do one better, after it. But nothing, I think even he's admitted, would ever top that 1986 video. Heck, he's even said on his own, on his own vlog, through interviews, he said, good luck to anybody trying to remake it. And basically, when he said that, ever since then, people have been wanting to remake it. They've taken that as a challenge. And those that I mentioned that I feel got inspired by what he's been doing and using elements of that in their works, like the female artists that I've mentioned, like Borak, F.K. Twigs, Katy Perry, Lady Gaga, St. Vincent, and so on. I look at the fact that they are taking what he said there as a challenge and not particularly remaking the video and the song, but basically trying to take elements from it and showcase it in their videos to say, hey, you challenge us to remake it or do it in our own image. Okay, challenge accepted. And you see that, like I said, you see that throughout their videos, throughout their resume of videos. But, to me, nothing, and I think anybody else would agree, nothing's going to top this one. Nothing would ever top this one. Even after it's 40 years after the 40th anniversary is over, nothing's ever going to top it. But this is why I also come out and said, the time is now for an up-and-coming or established female artist/singer to go out there and do their own version of the music video. Even if it's their own song, go out and do it. Because I guarantee you, with today's technology, people will watch it. When the video is done, people will watch it. They'll see it. They want to know, okay, they'll want to know, okay, did they do it by CGI? Did they do it by AI? Was part of it practical? They're going to want to know. But also they're going to want to ask themselves, okay, we see certain scenes and elements that are identical to Sledgehammer. Was this paying homage, or was this taking this, certain moments from that video and applying it to their own? They're going to want to know all that. But to me, I think the best way for them to truly show that, hey, you were an inspiration. You inspired us to use certain elements that you used in what we want to do. It makes me feel like as we approach the 40th anniversary, depending on how you look at it, either this year or next year, I feel that some up-and-coming female artists, artists/singers, as well as established ones, I think they owe it to themselves because of the influence you could tell that's in their videos based on what he's done. I think they owe it to themselves to say, hey, let's do our own version of that video to our own song, or even to a redoing of the song. Let's do our own version, and thus, in a way, thank Mr. Gabriel for paving the way for the creativity that all artists, male and female, have been able to accomplish. In their videos and in their music and all that. So I think they owe it to themselves to do that as an homage to him. I really do. And, to me, I think that's why he takes part in these things as well, is because he wants to see if anybody will be up to that challenge, male or female, practically female, I think, from what I'm seeing. He wants to see whether or not anybody will be up to the challenge to do it. So, overall, though, to me, the video, like I said, when I first saw it, just was mesmerizing. It was very mesmerizing. And again, when you look back on it, if you grew up at that time frame like I did, you look back on it, when you watch the video now on YouTube, or you purchase the 4K version off Apple, which you can get the 4K version on YouTube as well, believe it or not. But anyway, like I said, whether you watch it through there or whatever, honestly, if you grew up at the time that I did, it still will amaze you that, this is something you would look at now and think, oh, this had to be done through AI and CGI. You would get that feeling. You would get that feeling, watching it, but realizing, yeah, it feels like that, but also in reality, that even though it feels like that, you realize that it's something that was not done that way. It was done practically. So to me, it still amazes me, and I'm sure it amazes anybody else that grew up that time or even was born afterwards that, found out about it but didn't know the behind the scenes, notes on it until, I guess recently or later on. When you watch it, it still amazes you, how much was put into it. How much, effort was put into it to go from this to this, to put in the illusion of, okay, you have all this fruit surrounding his face, it engulfs his face, and all of a sudden he's a fruit face that splits apart and comes back together and everything. Or, hey, he's turned into a claymation version of himself, which basically hits him in his hands, morph into sledgehammers, and he hits his hand, a little version of him, or hits his head, and a little version of him pops out of his head, and then all of a sudden he's just a mouth on a wall, and then he turns into a yin-yang sign, and then he's a reverse waterfall and stuff like that. It just amazes, I think, a lot of people to know that all that was done practically 40 years ago. And it's a video that honestly people would say with today's technology could fit in perfectly today if it was done today. But they also know that the way it would be done today wouldn't be just practical. It would be mostly AI, CGI. But yeah, to me, like I said, it's just mesmerizing. And every time it would come on, I would watch it. Just because of those certain scenes. The claymation, the fruit face and all that. It was just funny to me. Is what it was. Just so funny. And like I said, you could tell people try to emulate that. In fact, in 2000, when I was living on my own in Lawrence, Kansas, or just living on my own, starting to live on my own, I remember renting stuff from Renter Center just to get myself established, like a computer and certain things. And I befriended some of the people there, and I said, hey, if I have a blank tape, can you record something for me? And they said, sure. And what it was is they would show music videos from GAC, Great American Country. And one of the videos they showed was Elizabeth Cook and Stupid Things. And and when I saw this, I'm like, why does this feel like it's inspired by Sledgehammer? Just by the stop motion and everything, obviously. But I'm like, why does it feel like it's inspired by that? And then I got my answer when you had a bunch of fruit, not as much fruit as what they had with Peter and everything, but you had all these fruits surrounding Elizabeth's face, and then all of a sudden her face gets surrounded by it. But then all of a sudden you see all these, I guess you could say, plastic containers, cupboards, if you will, go across, and then all of a sudden you see this, I would assume, a fruit-based version of her face and everything afterwards or in front of it. And I'm thinking, did she get inspired by Sledgehammer for that scene or something? So, even then you can, like I said, see the people that got inspired or influenced by what he did, in my opinion. So again, to me, it's just one of those videos that any chance I would see it, I would just love it. I would just love watching it and enjoying it. And this is why, for the past almost entire run of this channel, I would come on here and I would say the time is now. Because I see the advancement of technology. I see AI and CGI advancing and becoming more than what they were originally, to the point that even with the examples I've shown with my creations here on my channel, that I feel it can be done. So if I'm, again, any up-and-coming female artist / singer, and I want to put myself on the map, then I do something akin to what he did in '86. And even if I have to use AI and CGI, then so be it. But I would do it. I would do it to put myself on the map or get myself noticed. And if I'm an established female artist / singer, like a Katy Perry, an FK Twigs, a St. Vincent, a Bullock, then I would definitely take all that creativity and I would say, you know what? As a way to pay homage to this guy for inspiring me, I'm going to do my own version of his music video to my own song, or even to my own take of that song. That's what I would do if I was there. I would. But yeah, but in closing, guys, nothing is ever going to top that video. Nothing at all. And again, for those that are watching it even nowadays, that were born in the 90s or even the 2000s that are watching it, and they're amazed by, how it was created back before their time. For those people that are amazed by that, it shows you how dedicated people were to the craft, to wanting to put something out there that would get them noticed, but would also truly, represent what the song, was about. Because there is that one lyric in the song, that one line where he says, "I'll be anything you need." So if you're someone that has that line in his song, in your song back then, and you saying, "Hey, I want something that's going to creatively make me stand out," then you're going to want a video that practically emphasizes that line by basically making you into anything on that video. So yeah, overall, I just enjoyed it, and like I said, nothing's ever going to really top it. But I do feel the time, the time is very appropriate for anybody out there, female artist, what have you, female singer, artist, whatever you, to pay homage to this individual and do their own creative version of the video, scene by scene, even to their own song or to their own cover version of the Sledgehammer song itself. But anyway, though, guys, I know I sound like I rambled a bit. I do apologize, but I just wanted to talk about this, especially for the newer subscribers and everything. Let me know what your thoughts are. How did you feel about the Sledgehammer music video when you first saw it? How did you enjoy it? What were your thoughts about it when you first came across it and then found out exactly how it came about, how it was created? What were your thoughts on it? And who do you think, female artist / singer-wise, could do a send-up, an homage music video creatively and even song-wise to it for the 40th anniversary? Let me know down below in the comment section as well as in the live chat, during the premiere. Like the video, ring the bell for notifications, subscribe to the channel, click on the links to find my content elsewhere, guys, outside of YouTube. We greatly appreciate it if you can. But like I said, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share the video, like the video, check out the Teespring store. Link will be in the description at the bottom for merchandise you can't get anywhere else. But guys, give me your thoughts on what I had to say here. And until next time, I will talk to y'all later.